I came home from work and found Karen floating in my pool on a Flamingo, drinking my soda, and calling it community property. I lost it and grabbed the spaghetti. I came home from work and found Karen floating in my pool on a Flamingo, drinking my soda, and calling it community property. I lost it and grabbed the spaghetti. I demanded to know where they got this so-called sign-up sheet, and the woman casually reached into her beach tote and handed me a laminated paper, like she was giving me a pool menu. At the top, Community Pool Access Schedule printed in Comic Sans. And right under that, in bold, hosted at my address, a shared amenity made possible through the kindness of our neighbor. My name. Nowhere on it. But a smiling emoji with sunglasses was slapped across the bottom. Like this was some summer camp sign-up and not blatant trespassing. That was it. I walked right back inside, called the county sheriff's office, and waited. 20 minutes later, a patrol car rolled up, lights off, slow and steady. The deputy stepped out, adjusted his belt, and gave me a tired look like he already knew this was going to be weird. I handed him the flyer, the laminated sheet, the photos. He scanned them, then sighed. She did what now? I explained everything. The fake flyers, the trespassing, the HOA delusion, the noodle-thin line between fantasy and lawsuit. He scratched his head. You got cameras? All over, I said. Signs? More than a military base. Gate locked? Like Fort Knox. He nodded. Then you're good. They're trespassing. You're in the clear. Want us to clear the pool? I nodded so fast I almost pulled a muscle. The deputy turned, walked over to the group still floating around like they were in Club Med, and politely said, "Folks, time to go. You're on private property." The guy with the selfie stick actually had the nerve to say, "But we signed up." The deputy just blinked and said, "We said that you all wanna died." Where? On Pinterest? They scattered like spilled snacks at a picnic, and as they left, wet, confused, and grumbling, I felt it. Not just relief, but rage. This wasn't over. Karen wasn't just spreading lies. She was planting roots, turning fiction into flyers, and neighbors into believers. And if she wanted to declare war over pool access, then it was time I served the main course. Because I had an idea, one that would stain her clipboard reputation forever, and it started with spaghetti. Part 4. Operation Noodle Lockdown begins. It started with one oversized pasta cooker I found online, then another, then a text to my buddy Brad, who owns a propane burner setup and 0 sense of hesitation. By sundown that Friday, my backyard had transformed into a full-blown makeshift Italian war kitchen, and my goal, simple: fill the entire pool with spaghetti, but not just noodles. Red, sticky, uninviting spaghetti, the kind that looks like it came from a horror movie catering tray, slippery, swirly, and just gross enough to make any trespasser think twice before belly flopping in. I dubbed it Operation Noodle Lockdown. Yeah, I'd lost it. But honestly, I didn't care. I was past reason, past HOA diplomacy, past Karen and her delusional suburban dictatorship. She wanted to claim my pool as community property? Then, fine. She could explain to the entire HOA board why the shared amenity now looked like it had been cursed by an Italian witch doctor. Brad showed up with 3 giant aluminum drums, the kind you see at crawfish boils or underground chili contests. We boiled noodles in shifts. Shovels stirred them. Steam rose like battlefield smoke. One neighbor walked by, sniffed the air, and whispered, "Are y'all cooking for the army?" No, Linda. We were cooking vengeance. By midnight, we had wheelbarrows full of spaghetti, tangled, hot, redder than sin. We dyed the sauce with extra food coloring, added fake eyeballs from last Halloween, and even tossed in a few plastic tentacles for ambiance. It looked like Cthulhu had catered a wedding, and at 4:30 a.m., under cover of early dawn, we dumped the first batch into the pool. Slop, splash, glorp. Noodles curled like seaweed, sauce coated every tile. It was majestic, revolting, and deeply, deeply satisfying. By sunrise, the water was gone. What remained was a pasta graveyard. Brad stared at it, bleary-eyed, shovel still in hand, and said, "This is either genius or a felony." I sipped my coffee and whispered, "Why not both?" Then I printed a sign for the gate. Bold letters, elegant script. "Welcome to the Spaghetti Aquarium. Swim at your own meatball risk." And I waited. Because Karen, she always showed up on Saturdays, and today, she was about to learn what happens when you try to steal a pool from the wrong guy. Part 5. The Scream, the Sauce, and the Scandal. At exactly 10:04 a.m., she arrived. Right on cue, Karen, wearing oversized sunglasses, a floppy beach hat, and dragging a folding lounge chair like she was strutting into a 5-star resort. Behind her, 2 yoga moms, her bratty little kid, and some shirtless guy I'd seen mowing lawns like he owned the entire zip code. They rounded the hedge, expecting blue water, peace, and their self-declared community pool. But instead, they met a crimson nightmare. The spaghetti had settled into thick, swirling clumps, red sauce rippling under the sun, fake eyeballs bobbing like haunted croutons. And in the center, a soggy lasagna sheet, just floating there like a mafia threat. Karen stopped dead in her tracks. Her mouth opened. No sound came out. Her sunglasses slipped down her nose. One of the yoga moms gasped, clutched her stainless steel water bottle like it was pepper spray. The kid? He said what they were all thinking. "You! Is that blood?" I stood on the porch, coffee in hand, watching, waiting. Karen blinked hard, like maybe if she looked again, it would all go away. And then she snapped. "What is this?" she screamed. I took a slow sip, then smiled. "Spaghetti," I said. "Lots of it." She stormed toward the gate, stumbling in her sandals, shrieking like a Karen possessed. "You can't do this! This is vandalism! This is biohazardous!" I pointed calmly to the brand new sign posted right beside her. "Private property, not an HOA facility. Trespassers will be meatballed." Okay. I added the last part as a joke. But it worked. She rattled the gate, realized it was reinforced. Steel latch, triple padlocked. "You've ruined it," she screeched. "You've made the pool unusable." I grinned. "You mean unusable for the community?" Her voice hit a new pitch, like a kettle about to blow steam. "There are children in this neighborhood. This is disgusting. You're going to pay for this." I shrugged. Children shouldn't trespass, especially not into marinara mayhem. She took out her phone and started snapping photos of the spaghetti, of the eyeballs, of me. "This is a public health hazard. I'm calling the HOA board, the sheriff, the health department, the mayor, if I have to." I waved. "Tell them spaghetti says hi." They left in chaos. Karen was fuming. The yoga moms were gagging. The shirtless guy just looked confused. And the kid? He kicked my mailbox on the way out and yelled, "You're the mean pasta man!" That evening, the HOA Facebook page exploded. One post read, "The pool guy has lost his mind. It's filled with red sludge. I think there are bones." Another said, "Honestly, he owns the land." I think it's hilarious. By sundown, I was sipping wine on my porch. Brad by my side, and together we watched the security footage of Karen trying to shove another fake HOA letter through the fence, only for it to bounce off a wet noodle and land in the sauce-soaked grass. Mission accomplished. The pool, no longer public, no longer usable, but absolutely, undeniably, mine. Part 6. The health inspectors, the HOA, and the hot mess. Monday morning hit like a pasta hangover, and with it came the knock. Not just any knock, the official kind. Two figures stood on my porch. Khaki uniforms, steel clipboards, the words County Health Department stitched across their shirts. One was tall and serious, the other already frowning. "Sir," the tall one said, trying hard to keep a straight face, "we received a complaint that your swimming pool may pose a public health risk." I didn't flinch. "Of course," I said. "Come on back. Let me show you." We walked around the side of the house, and there it was, still steaming, still swirling, still very much a crime scene from a tomato-based apocalypse. One of them actually gagged. The other poked the floating lasagna sheet with a skimmer and made a sound like a man who'd just seen a rat do ballet. Then he asked the question. "Why?" I smiled politely. "Revenge," I said, "but legal. No chemicals, no soap. Just food-grade spaghetti, some sauce, and a few eyeballs for flavor." They looked at each other, then back at me. One scribbled something on his clipboard. The other just said, "Well, it's weird, but it's not a violation." I raised an eyebrow. "No citation?" They both shook their heads. "Not unless someone tries to eat it," the taller one muttered. Just as they were turning to leave, we heard it, screeching tires, followed by the slam of a car door. It was her, Karen, storming up the side path like a courtroom prosecutor on a mission from drama school. She had a folder in one hand and rage in the other. "You can't be serious," she shouted. "This is toxic. There are children in this neighborhood." The health inspectors froze. Karen pointed at the red water like she was identifying a crime scene. "There are rats, flies. You have to shut him down." One inspector glanced at me. I sipped my coffee and said, "They're seagulls, and that's just oregano." The shorter inspector turned to her, calm as ever. "Ma'am, this is private property. Unless you're invited, you're trespassing." Karen actually choked. But this is community space." "No," I said, stepping in. "I've got the deed, the sheriff's statement, and a lawyer who loves paperwork." She didn't move, just trembled, then hissed, "This isn't over," and stomped off, her sandals slapping against the concrete like wet spaghetti. The inspectors left, chuckling under their breath. No fines, no warnings, just one note in their report. Unconventional but legal. That afternoon, I got a letter, but not from Karen, from the actual HOA board, typed, signed, stamped. It read, "Please be advised that Karen redacted is not and has never been an elected HOA board member. Her actions and statements do not reflect the official policies of this organization." Translation: Karen got caught playing queen of a castle she never owned. They distanced themselves like she was a contagious disease. The tide had turned, the spaghetti had worked. And by the end of the day, even the local newspaper wanted to talk. Part 7. The billboard, the backlash, and the birth of a legend. By Friday morning, I wasn't just a guy with a pool full of spaghetti. I was a local celebrity. The newspaper ran a front-page headline, "Spaghetti Justice? Pool. War. Boils over in quiet suburb." Under it, a glorious full-color photo of my backyard, sauce-stained tiles, floating meatballs, and a sign that read, "Spaghetti Aquarium. Swim at your own meatball risk." It should have ended there, but revenge, real, satisfying, noodle-soaked revenge, It deserves a curtain call. So I made one last move. I called the biggest billboard company in the county, and I rented space, right at the entrance to the neighborhood. Thousands of cars would pass it daily: school buses, delivery trucks, joggers, HOA spies. I designed it myself. Karen, drawn like a cartoon villain. Giant sunglasses, sun hat, spaghetti dripping off her hair like it was a wig made of regret. Behind her, a massive bowl of pasta labeled community property. And at the bottom in bold red, "This is why we can't have nice things." When it went up, the internet exploded. Some people cheered, some clutched their pearls. But no one stayed quiet. TikTokers danced in front of it. Reddit made a meme comparing me to Batman. If Batman fought HOAs with marinara. And Karen? Oh, she lost it. I watched from my porch as she pulled up in her beige SUV, slammed the door, and just stared at the sign, like it had personally insulted her ancestors. She didn't knock, didn't yell. She just stood there, shaking, mouthing curses, like she was casting a suburban hex. Later that night, someone tried to vandalize the billboard. They spray-painted "Justice for Karen" across the bottom in neon green. The company called to ask if I wanted to replace it. I told them, "Leave it. It's evolving." And the next day, my porch had a new gift, a spaghetti-shaped cake, with a note that said, "For the man who turned HOA tyranny into pasta legend." The war wasn't just over, it was memorialized. And Karen? Well, she wasn't done trying, but she was done winning, because the neighborhood had chosen a side, and it was Team Spaghetti. Part 8, Karen's final move, and the ultimate noodle victory. You'd think after being publicly roasted on a billboard, featured in memes, and dethroned as the self-appointed HOA queen, Karen would lay low. But no, this was Karen, and she had one last tantrum left in the tank. It started with a knock on my door, not Karen this time, a courier. He handed me a thick envelope with a fake gold seal on the front that screamed, "Legal Drama Cosplay." Inside, a formal-looking notice, written in Comic Sans, a cease and desist, claiming I had slandered a private citizen, violated neighborhood decorum, and committed unethical pasta-based conduct. I actually laughed, out loud. My ducks waddled over just to see what the commotion was. She tried to sue me, over spaghetti, over a sign, over a pool on my own land. The letter wasn't from a real law firm. It was signed, Karen, acting chairwoman of community wellness. What does that even mean? My lawyer friend Ava looked it over and said, "This has less legal power than a fortune cookie." Still, I figured she'd try again. So I prepared for one final strike. That Sunday, I held a yard sale. But instead of junk, I sold mini spaghetti kits, clear jars, each labeled "Official Quacktown Souvenir. Property rights taste better with sauce." Within hours, they were gone. Neighbors I'd never spoken to were lining up, laughing, thanking me. One older man whispered, "You said what we all wanted to, just with more carbs." Even the actual HOA president stopped by. He pulled me aside, looked around, and said, "Look, off the record? You've done more to expose our weak spots than any meeting ever has. Karen is being reviewed." That was it. The final blow. No billboard, no noodles. Just consequences. Real ones. 2 weeks later, a moving truck pulled into Karen's driveway. Boxes, Tupperware, a broken clipboard on the lawn. She didn't wave goodbye. She didn't post a farewell on the community page. She just vanished, like a spilled bowl of marinara down a storm drain. And as the truck pulled away, I stood at the edge of my property, raised my coffee mug, and let out a single victorious whisper. "Bon appétit, Karen." Part 9, Quacktown Day, and the return of pool peace. Karen was gone. No more flyers, no more community pool schedules, no more toddler cannonballs in my planter boxes. For the first time in months, there was quiet. Blissful, chlorine-scented quiet. But I wasn't about to let the legend of the Great Spaghetti War fade into HOA obscurity. Oh no. I had something better in mind. A celebration. Not just for me, but for every neighbor who stood by, watched the madness unfold, and thought, finally, someone pushed back. So I planned a little something, a not-so-official event. No HOA approvals, no clipboards allowed, just good food, good people, and a few feathery VIPs. We called it Quacktown Day. The pool, spotless. The spaghetti sludge, gone. New liner, new lights. And a new sign at the gate that read, Private Property. Survivors of the pasta era only. Brad brought burgers. Ava made cease and dip queso. One of the neighbors brought a pasta salad shaped like the billboard. And yes, Sir Quaxalo and his crew showed up, wearing tiny bow ties. The kids cheered when they waddled in like celebrities. One girl even asked if they were the ducks from TikTok. I smiled and said, they're the reason we still have a pool. That afternoon, we grilled. We told the story. We laughed until we cried. And when the sun dipped low, we watched footage from that fateful spaghetti morning projected on the side of my garage like a drive-in movie. Karen, frozen in horror. The sauce, the floating meatballs. The sign, Spaghetti Aquarium. Pure magic. As the night wrapped up, I stood by the pool with a drink in hand, watching the ducks float lazily across the water, Sir Quaxalo paddling like a king, surveying his kingdom. And I realized this wasn't just about a pool. It was about drawing the line, about saying no to absurdity. And yes to boundaries, dignity, and yes, even noodles. And just before I turned in, one of the kids tugged my sleeve and asked, "Is it true you filled the pool with spaghetti?" I grinned, paused, then whispered, "Buddy, there's footage." Epilogue. The legend of the spaghetti pool. It's been a year since the first splash of marinara echoed across my backyard. The pool's clean now. The tiles gleam again. No sign of spaghetti. No more trespassers. And not a single HOA flyer in sight. Karen? She sold her house 6 months ago. Rumor has it she moved to a condo complex. No pools, no pets, and definitely no billboards. The ducks? Still here, still waddling with attitude. Sir Quaxalot runs the yard like it's Buckingham Palace. Peppa and Biscuit nap in flower pots. Danger Zone now wears a little vest that says, Neighborhood Watch. The billboard? Gone, but framed pieces of it now hang in a few garages around the neighborhood like war medals. And me? I still get strangers walking by, whispering, "That's the guy, the pasta guy." And honestly, I wear it like a badge of honor, because in a world of fake authority, power-tripping neighbors, and endless HOA drama, sometimes the only way to be heard is with noodles. So if you're ever thinking, should I fight back? Just remember this. You don't need to yell. You don't need to scream. You just need a plan, a pool, and maybe a few ducks and a metric ton of spaghetti.